Let's just dive right into a seriously fascinating new paper by George Profitiliadis. It literally flips the way we look at SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. You know, we usually picture SETI as this purely physical thing, right? Vast arrays of satellite dishes, astronomers listening to cosmic static in the dark. But this paper, called The Allure of Complete Discovery as Passage, suggests there's a much deeper, almost hidden psychological current running right beneath the surface of the whole search.
So before we even get into the hard science, we have to ask ourselves a crucial question. It's really the only way to uncover the psychology here. What happens after we find them? Seriously, think about it for a second. Every sci-fi movie, every book, even the way the news talks about it, they all carry this massive underlying assumption about what first contact would actually mean for us. Are they bringing us crazy new technology? Are they here to fix our planetary crises? Well, it turns out, this seemingly innocent question of what comes next actually casts a huge shadow backward onto the actual science being done today.
And that leads us to a really stark contrast between two completely different views of SETI. On one hand, you've got the standard scientific view. We're talking astrophysics, radio frequencies, the hunt for verifiable data from sapient extraterrestrial life. But then, Profitiliadis introduces this sociological view. He argues that SETI actually acts kind of like a mirror for human sociology. When you look at it this way, the search isn't just about plotting data points in space. Humanity is actually viewing this search as a passage, a gateway to a highly desirable human future.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to unpack a pretty heavy academic term the author relies on throughout the paper: the social imaginary. Honestly, the best way to think about a social imaginary is as a collective daydream. It's this shared, unspoken vision that a society holds about its own identity and its ultimate destiny. And what Profitiliadis is arguing is that SETI doesn't just belong to the realm of outer space. It's deeply, deeply embedded in our own human social imaginary. Our vision of finding aliens is co-constitutive, meaning it's completely intertwined with our vision of saving, or at least elevating, ourselves.
And that brings us to the absolute core argument of the paper. Profitiliadis hits the nail on the head here. He writes that SETI's imaginary is an imaginary of a society of sapient extraterrestrials that makes possible the achievement of a desirable future of humanity. Basically, we aren't just scanning the stars out of cold, calculated scientific curiosity. Deep down, we're secretly hoping that an advanced alien civilization will just hand us the keys to a utopian future. Maybe they'll finally fix our climate crisis, or at least prove that we can survive our own technological adolescence. We are essentially looking for cosmic saviors.
Now, you might be wondering, dreaming of a better future sounds great, right? What could possibly be wrong with a little optimism? Well, we have to look critically at how this assumption creates a very real bottleneck in the day-to-day work of SETI researchers. Because when your underlying motivation is tied to this massive utopian outcome, it subconsciously dictates the kind of questions you are even allowed to ask. It changes the experiments you design and absolutely impacts the kind of funding you pursue. The really crucial point here is what the author brilliantly calls the complete discovery trap. This is our obsession with finding a definitive, totally society-altering signal. A complete discovery is the holy grail, right? It's that undeniable, crystal-clear message from the stars that instantly transforms humanity. But by putting all of our scientific eggs into this one, highly dramatic basket, we build a trap for ourselves. It creates this all-or-nothing mindset that literally blinds us to anything that might fall short of a massive, world-changing revelation.
So how does this trap actually work? Well, scientists naturally start framing their work within these grand conviction narratives. These are the compelling stories we tell the public about how this research will inevitably lead to that desirable future state. But the problem, as Profitiliadis points out, is that relying solely on this idea of a complete discovery acts like a massive blinder. It inadvertently limits scientists from exploring those unconventional, incremental, or just totally out-of-the-box ideas. Why? Because those smaller ideas just don't fit into a huge Hollywood-style narrative of instant planetary salvation.
Okay, but recognizing a problem is only half the battle, right? To fix this bottleneck and actually free up the scientific process, the paper proposes a highly practical intervention. The author isn't just sitting back offering a philosophical critique, he's advocating for a specific hands-on workshop designed directly for SETI scientists themselves. The whole goal of this workshop is to help researchers step out of that complete discovery trap and view their own work through a completely different, totally unburdened lens. The foundational tool for this workshop is a really cool concept called futures literacy. Essentially, it's the skill to understand how our visions of tomorrow actively shape what we do today. For a SETI researcher, becoming futures literate means recognizing that their unexamined assumptions about a post-discovery utopia are actively directing, and frankly, sometimes limiting, the hypotheses they draft this very morning. It's all about untangling their present-day scientific methods from their emotional assumptions about the future.
Alongside futures literacy, the workshop is going to utilize another super powerful cognitive tool, triple loop learning. Now, standard learning might just be about adjusting your methods to get a better result, right? But triple loop learning goes way deeper. It's an advanced framework designed to question the very foundation of why you are conducting the search in the first place. It challenges those deep-seated societal paradigms we've been talking about. It forces scientists to stop and ask, wait, are the underlying values driving my research actually sound, or are they just inherited cultural myths?
These cognitive tools are built into a brilliantly simple, but honestly profound, three-step process for the workshop: reveal, reframe, and rethink. Each step builds on the last to slowly decouple the hard science of SETI from all that heavy baggage of our collective daydream. Let's break those down.
So, step 1, reveal the imaginary. This is all about awareness. Because before you can change your behavior, you have to acknowledge the invisible forces guiding it. Scientists in this workshop will be guided to actively uncover and acknowledge the hidden role that this dream of a desirable post-discovery future plays in their current proposals. And that takes some brutal honesty, to admit that a quest for objective data might actually be driven by a highly subjective desire for human salvation.
Once that imaginary is out in the open, we move to step 2, reframe the role. This is where the heavy lifting of futures literacy really kicks in. Researchers have to intentionally reframe their mindset. They need to actively separate their scientific methods from the heavy burden of saving or elevating humanity. It's about learning to look at a radio telescope not as some magical antenna for a utopian future, but simply as an instrument for gathering data in the present. By reframing their role, they take this incredible, almost paralyzing pressure off of their day-to-day work.
Finally, we get to step 3, rethink the research. By completely breaking free from the complete discovery trap, scientists are finally liberated. Without the constant need to only pursue projects that promise some earth-shattering message from the stars, they can rethink their entire approach. The paper argues that this will drastically broaden the range of actionable SETI research ideas. We might see an absolute explosion of new methodologies, focusing on strange anomalies, minor data points, or unconventional techno-signatures that were previously totally ignored just because they didn't fit the grand narrative.
Which brings us to our final thought. The intervention Profitilius proposes offers a really profound shift in perspective. It challenges the entire scientific community to, well, kind of grow up, to stop looking to the stars for a parent figure to solve our earthly problems. But it also leaves us with an incredibly exciting question to ponder. If we finally stop waiting for aliens to save us, and we unleash our scientists from the burden of complete discovery, what incredible, unexpected cosmic discoveries might we actually make today? When we stop expecting the universe to write our future for us, we might just finally see it clearly for what it actually is. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep looking up.